It's I'm doing Canto 6. Sorry.
Yeah,
I,
Canto
let
6,
me.
chapter 15.
Okay. I'm doing.
Yeah, Canto 6, chapter 15 from text 1 to 15, Prabhuji.
Okay.
I'm also sharing the screen now.
Okay. Hare Krishna devotees. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriye नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नस्तुतिः. Mm. So today we'll be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 15, and this is a very nice chapter. The title is the Saints Narada and Angira instruct King Chitraketu. Text 1. Sri Sukdev Goswami said, while King Chitraketu, overcome by lamentation, lay like a dead body at the side of the dead body of his son, the two great Narad and the two great sages, Narad and Angira, instructed him about the spiritual consciousness as follows. Text 2. O king, what relationship does the dead body for which you lament have with you? And what relationship do you have with him? You may say that you are now related as father and son, but do you think this relationship existed before? Does it truly exist now? Will it continue to exist in future? Text 3. Excuse me. O king, as a small particle of sand sometimes come together and are sometimes separated due to the force of the waves, the living entity who have accepted material bodies sometimes come together and are sometimes separated by the force of time. Text 4. When the seeds are sown in the ground, they sometimes grow into plants and sometimes they do not. Sometimes the ground is not fertile and the sowing of the seed is unproductive. Similarly, sometimes a productive father, being impelled by the potency of the Supreme Lord, can beget a child, but sometimes conception does not take place. Therefore, one should not lament over the artificial relationship of parenthood, which is ultimately controlled by the Supreme Lord. Text 5. O King, both you and we, your advisors, wives, and ministers, as well as everything moving and not moving throughout this universe, throughout this entire cosmos at this time, are in temporary situation. Before our birth, this situation did not exist, and after our death, it will not. It will exist no longer. Therefore, our situation now is temporary, although it is not false. Text 6. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Master, the Proprietor of everything, is certainly not interested in the temporary cosmic manifestation. Nonetheless, just as just as this boy at the beach creates something in which he is not interested, The Lord, keeping everything under his control, causes creation, maintenance, and annihilation. He creates by engaging a father to beget a son. He manifests by engaging a government or king to see to the public welfare, and he inherited, sorry, inherit, inheritates, inheritates through agent for killing, such as snakes. The agents for creation, maintenance, and annihilation have no independence potential, but because of the spell of the illusory energy, one thinks himself the creator, a maintainer, and annihilator. Text 7. As from one seed to another seed is generated, O king, so from one body, another, another, so from one body to another body. A third body is generated. So from one body and to another body, a third body is generated. As the element of the material bodies are eternal, the living entity who appears through these material elements is also eternal. Text 8. The divisions of generalization and specification, such as the nationality and individualism, are the imagination of persons who are not advanced in knowledge. Sri Sukdev Goswami continued, thus enlightened by the instruction of Narad and Angira, King Chitraketu became hopeful with knowledge. Wiping his shriveled face with his hand, the king began to speak. Text 10. King Chitraketu said, you have both come here dressed like Avdhutas, liberated person, just to cover your identity. But I see that of all men, you are the most elevated in awareness. You know everything as it is. Therefore, you are the greatest of the all great personalities. Text 11. Brahmanas, who are exalted to the position of Vaishnavas, the most dear servants of Krishna, sometimes dress like madmen just just to benefit materialists like us who are always attached to the sense gratification, and just to dissipate our ignorance, these Vaishnavas wander on the surface of the globe according to their desire. Text 12 to 15. O great souls, I have heard that among the great and perfect persons wandering the surface of the earth to instruct knowledge to people covered by ignorance are Sanat Kumaras, Narad, Rubhu, Angira, Devala, Asita, Apan, Apantaratma, Markandeya, Gautam, Vachishta, Bhag, Bhagwan Parshuram, Kapila, Sukdeva, Durvasa, Yajni Valkya, Jatukarna, and Aruni. Others are Romas, Chavanya, Dattatreya, Asuri, Patanjali, the great sage Dhaumya, who is like the head of the Vedas, the sage Panchas, Panchashikha, Hiranyabha, Kausalya, Sutradeva, and the Radhadwaj. You must certainly be among them. Uh, this is the last one I have to read. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kishore Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. I'll offer brief prayers and we can start. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी नित्यनामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वतीदेवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. So today's section is little philosophical for the first 7 verses. After that is simple. Uh, so overall theme for today's section is about how when we're in bodily conception, we're suffering because of different things that we consider when we consider ourselves as body instead of soul, when we consider everything related to body as a mind like that, because that we suffer in many ways. But in reality, these relationships based on body and designations based on body are temporary. That is the overall theme. So we'll go through the sections, different verses. Now, good. The context was in the previous chapter, we learned how Chitrakitu's son died due to poison administered by the co-wives of Kritajyuti, who's the first wife who had the son after a long time. So all the other wives were envious of this son, and basically envious that king is only taking care of the son and the first wife only. Because of the neglect of the king, because of not showing affection, not receiving any affection from king, then all the other wives, out of 10 million wives minus one, all they became envious and did the poison. Now, because of that, the first wife, the king, they were fully engrossed in grief, a big problem for them. Because naturally, a son who's young dies in the family, obviously, somebody who's attached to them will be in full of grief. So that is a situation that was there at the end of the last chapter. Then, at that time, in the last verse of the last chapter, Angira Muni and Narada Muni arrived at the scene. So, by that time, king was lying like a dead body next to the dead body of his son, like that is described in the first verse of this chapter. And first verse introduces the topic, situation, that while King Chitraketu was lying down in grief next to the body of his son, that time Narada Muni and Angira, they came and they instructed him about spiritual consciousness. So that's how the whole topic is introduced in the first verse. And the second verse onwards, Narada Muni and Angira Muni are speaking now. From second verse to about seventh verse, they speak. And yeah, up to eighth verse, they're speaking. So then, in the second verse, one important thing is described, which is they're describing relationship between material bodies, relationships that we have that are based on the material body are temporary. So with that understanding, we do not have a real relationship with even the dead body of relatives like that. That is the theme being described in this section. So in this section, what we see is there is a slight introduction of the concept in Prabhupada's purport, uh, and based on the verse itself, that is elaborated in the coming verses. One of the concept is that how uh, the temporary relationships that we have right now, they were not there before, and they are not there after one of us, one of the people in the relationship pass away. There is no relationship later on. That means they are existing only between the starting point and ending point. Like starting point can be meeting somebody or birth of a child, like that starting point. Ending point is either one person in a relationship passes away, faces death, like that. So this relationship is only temporary between these time points only. Is not there before the starting point and is not there after this ending point, like that. That is one principle Prabhupada stresses in the purport, considering the verse itself. Another principle is, uh, but if I do not understand this principle, that this relationship is temporary, but we all have one eternal relationship with Krishna. We're all servants of Krishna. We're all partners of Krishna. Let us say I don't have that understanding, the spiritual understanding, but I'm situated in the material understanding with bodily conception of life. Then what happens? Then I naturally take shelter of those relationships which are insecure. So then that conception of taking shelter of material relationships, material things, material designations is considered as an illusion because they cannot give us a real shelter. Our real shelter we can get only in our relationship with Krishna because that is a permanent, eternal relationship. But instead, we try to take shelter of any other relationship that is materially formed currently, then that doesn't give real shelter, so that is called illusion. Now, in later verses, Prabhupada also elaborates on the point, I think in the fifth verse, he elaborates on the point of how these material relationships are temporary, yet, and that means they are not permanent, number one. That means they're actually happening real, not like I'm imagining. They're actually happening, but they're temporary. That means they're not permanent. That is a distinction he makes of Vaishnava understanding compared to Mayavadi understanding. Mayavadi thinks that these relationships don't exist. I'm just imagining that this is happening, material world is happening, material things are existing like that. So Vaishnava understanding is that they are really happening, but they're not permanent long term. They're only temporarily there like that. That so, but situating in that temporary relationship is called as illusion because without understanding the non-permanent nature, temporary nature of these relationships like that. That is in the second verse. In third verse, the Angiri Muni is describing, Angiri Muni and Nada Muni are describing uh, how there's an analogy given in the beach, when you go to a beach near the sea or like that, then there's a lot of sand in the beach. So there are several sand particles that are coming together currently, for example. When the waves of water comes to the shore, then sometimes what happens is the sand particles are uh, separated out. That means the waves of water pushes the sand particles away from the water, number one. Or when waves are going back, they may take some sand particles with them like that. So in that sense, the sand particles that were momentarily there for few minutes or few seconds, so will separate in few seconds again, like that. That is the example is being given. So by the force of the waves, these small sand particles are coming together and separating also like that. Similarly, the living entities, we when we accept the material bodies in this world, we sometimes come together and sometimes separated by the force of time. Time is the representation of Krishna. So by the representation of by the force of time, which is representing Krishna, and under the potency of Krishna, under the control of Krishna, sometimes we come together, sometimes we separate. That is the temporary nature being described in this verse, third verse. In the purport, Prabhupada emphasizes the bodily conception of life is misunderstanding. That means we're thinking I am this body, not understanding that I'm soul. That is a misunderstanding Prabhupada is clarifying in the purport. So unless we have this understanding that I'm a soul, we don't have any happiness, Prabhupada is writing in the purport. Then other point is, so the essence for this was to recognize is, we need to recognize that uh, our body is temporary. I'm a spirit soul, I'm eternally existing, but body is temporary. And any designations, any extensions of the body, like children, relationship with children, that is a temporary relationship that is there only till death. That we need to understand. Then we understand the temporality of the relationships, temporality of the material things that we own also like that. That's what this third verse is describing us for us with the, of course, with the analogy of sand particles coming together and separating with the times, with the waves like that. So somebody may think, oh, we need to adjust little bit to be permanently happy in the material world. So that is not possible in the material world to be permanently happy, because something or the other will affect us based on the modes of nature, based on the past karma that we or other person has done. So that is not a realistic solution. Thinking that I will adjust something and then I'll be permanently happy. I'll get little bit more money, I'll be permanently happy. I'll construct a nice home for myself, I'll be permanently happy. I'll get this better job and I'll be permanently happy. So that is not a uh, realistic and practical and intelligent solution. Because Krishna himself is certifying, like Prabhupada is writing in the purport last sentence, Dukkalayam asaswata. Material world is full of miseries. It's only matter of through bhakti, through our shelter in Krishna, through our understanding of ourselves as eternal soul, not body, then only we can handle these miseries that happen in our life like that. Because we can get immunity through bhakti from disturbances due to miserable conditions in our life. That's from the third verse we can learn. Now going to the fourth verse. Fourth verse, interestingly, this verse describes how Krishna is in the control. We might think I'm creating this, I'm maintaining this, I'm destroying this, I'm doing everything by myself. We may be in that doer consciousness. But ultimately, we are under the control of Krishna. And in one sense, we are under the control of material nature currently, and material nature is under control of Krishna. So ultimately, under the control of Krishna, we are not acting independently. That portion is stressed in this fourth verse now. So it's described. Uh, so the Prabhupada writes about the big brief background after Chitraketu pastime itself. How Chitraketu landed in this lamentation situation like that in the first paragraph. Then he explains the verse itself, what is describing. Verse is describing another analogy here. Remember the previous verse, we heard the analogy of sand particles coming together and going away from the waves of the ocean or sea like that. Similarly, we come together in material relationships and then we separate like that. Now, in the fourth verse, the analogy is different. Analogy is sometimes there are seeds that we sow in the ground so that plants can come. Sometimes some of them grow as a plant, some of them don't grow at all. Even though we are planting seeds. Why? Because of several factors. Ground is not fertile, for example, or sometimes the seeds are not proper, for example, then they don't come as plants like that. So sometimes they're coming as plants, sometimes they're coming as not coming as plants like that. Similarly, sometimes a father, by the potency of Krishna, the emphasis on potency of Krishna, by the potency of Krishna, can be created, can have a child sometimes, sometimes may not have a child. So Prabhupada writes in the purport, interesting thing, sometimes both the husband and wife may be potent, but still they may not get a child. Sometimes both the husband and wife oh, are maybe using some contraceptive methods to not have a child, but they happen to have a child. So from this, uh, Prabhupada is emphasizing that even though we might have different scientific methods to not have a child, for example, but by will of Supreme, child can come. So by this example, Prabhupada is underscoring the point that we cannot control everything. Ultimately, we are in the control of Supreme Lord Krishna. So that is the point Prabhupada is emphasizing in the purport for us. So now there are two consciousness in this fourth verse. One is a material consciousness that is thinking, I am actually creating the child. I am actually responsible. I am the in charge like that. So that's the doer consciousness thinking. that I am doing everything like that. But Prabhupada is emphasizing that yes, I am also one of the factor in doing the work, but I'm not the only factor. I'm not the ultimate controller. Prabhupada is writing that, explaining the Bhagavad Gita philosophy, that because of certain desires and certain actions that we had done previously, we got this current life situation in terms of different people who are related to us right now and different abilities we have. We got it based on the past karma as sanctioned by Supreme Lord. So now, based on our desires of what we need to do, based on Krishna's sanction, Prakriti is carrying out that activity like that. So that is the other point being made in the purport now. That means we are not the ultimate doer, but whatever is being done by the material nature under the sanction of Krishna with our desires like that. Because with our desires and based on what we deserve also. Yeah. So that is the first aspect. And the more important aspect Prabhupada is stressing in the purport is the contrast with the devotional consciousness. Devotional consciousness, we because understanding that everything is happening under the sanction of Krishna. We, from devotional perspective, we don't desire any particular material thing to happen in this way, material thing to happen that way, material, I should get this material thing like that. Prabhupada is quoting the Nectar of Devotion, Paribhasha Sutra, are the most important verse of the entire Nectar of Devotion, are Bhakti Rasam Sindhu. Anyavilashita Sunyam, Gnana Karmadi Anavritam, Anukulyana Krishnanushilanam, Bhakti Ruchyate. Bhakti Uttama, sorry. So, this one, for a Uttama Bhakti, pure devotion service, we should have these conditions. Primary condition is we're doing service that is favorable to Krishna. That is the primary thing. And to support that, there is no other desire than serving Krishna. That means there is no other desire that is related to fruitive activity. That means I need to get something, or mental speculation. Anyabhishasusunam jnana karmadi anavritam. But we are doing favorable service to Krishna, to please Krishna. So that is the principle of devotion service. We only need to act so that we can develop Krishna consciousness, because everything else fully depends on Krishna. So we should not create plans that I should become a billionaire like this, then only I'll become happy like that. It's okay to have goals that are in line with our ultimate goal of life, which is to become Krishna conscious, to which is to develop relationship with Krishna, which is to awaken our relationship with Krishna. With that ultimate goal, what are the smaller goals that are aligned to that? It's okay. I need to get some wealth. I need to maintain some balances in bank to for the safety emergency purposes, for children's education, for children's marriage. Like that, it's okay to have goals. But understand that for all these goals, they're not only dependent on me. All these goals are dependent on Supreme Lord sanctioning ultimately. When we understand that, even if I don't achieve this goal, even if I achieve this goal partially, then I'm not devastated. I understand all I could do only this much. Ultimately, I can only do so much, not so much more than that. But for ultimate goal of life, we keep on striving, and Krishna will empower us. Krishna will help us like that. So that's the fourth verse purport. So in the fifth verse, the situation is how here again is describing the temporariness of the situation in the world that is there right now. So, and Prabhupada is contrasting how Mayavadi philosophers misunderstand the statement Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. The misunderstanding is that living being is factual, but everything else is false. That means not even existing. We're only imagining things like that. That's not true. We can see things, we can feel things like that. So, but it is only temporarily existing. That is a Vaishnava understanding. Prabhupada is clarifying. And Prabhupada clarifies this point by describing the situation of a dream. How, when we have a dream, during the dream, we might think I'm a king, we might be scared of a tiger or lion, whatever it is, situation that's going through in the dream. But before the dream, none of those existed. And after the dream also, none of this existed. Similar to that, we are going through this life for a short period of time. That is the understanding Prabhupada gives us based on the verse here given here. So now going to text number 6. Text number 6, um, yeah, is interesting because this is emphasizing in the previous verse, we heard about how Supreme Lord is the ultimate controller in the fourth verse. Now, this verse is emphasizing that not only Lord is in full control of creation, maintenance, and regulation, but he is doing that with agents like material nature, like all of us doing something other like that. So we are acting as agents, but we are not in the ultimate control. That is the point being made in this through this verse, like that. But we think I am in full control. I created my child, like that we think. But the point is, Krishna is empowering us, so we can give birth to a child like that. But we are not the ultimate controller. That is the point being made in this purport. So, Bhagavad Gita verse is also quoted, Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasaha ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. I think I am the doer like that. But in reality, when I desire something, Krishna is sanctioning and the material nature is facilitating that action to happen like that. So there are many factors involved. I'm not the only factor, I'm not the ultimate factor. That is the point Prabhupada is clarifying in the purport also. So, and then Prabhupada is giving an advice. So when we understand that Supreme Lord is in full control, I'm just an agent, what do I need to do? I need to follow the instructions of Krishna. How do you follow the instruction of Krishna? Instead of Krishna, Krishna gave instructions in Bhagavad Gita. So I need to consult Bhagavad Gita and act according to the understanding of Bhagavad Gita with that spiritual vision of understanding my spiritual eternal nature being part and parcel of Krishna and my being embodied in this material body currently. Because of that, I have certain duties currently and certain limitations currently. With that understanding, then we act in the world. So then we'll be satisfied without any disturbances, Prabhupada is writing in the purport. Because we're understanding that not everything is in my control, we're acting according to the directions of Krishna. So we can be satisfied. So another two verses with a lot of philosophy. After that is storyline. So text 7, text 7 is also describing how from one seed another seed is generated. So how from one seed plant comes and from plant seeds again come right there, right? Similarly, from one body, from father's body, through mother's body, a third body is generated, which is a child like that. And however, the living entity who appears through these material elements, remember the child body is made up of gross body that we have is made of material elements. Those are eternal also. So, but the living entity who is taking this material body through birth is also eternal. That is the point being made in this purport, in this verse actually. So, in the purport, Prabhupada clarifies that why are we taking birth first of all? Because we have desire to enjoy this material world, separate from Krishna. Because that Krishna is facilitating that activity to happen like that. That is the one point being made, Prabhupada is making. Second thing is, uh, as a father, mother, even I'm thinking I'm creating this child, so he's mine. Uh, Everything is in my control. Like instead of thinking like that, our right understanding is because of that child that is born based on his past karma, based on his past desires. That is why he's born in the situation currently, and by the sanction of Krishna. When we understand that, then we don't get this possessiveness, my child, like that. That is the point being made here now. So now the text 8 is elaborating on the understanding that sometimes based on the material body's relationships, we have different designations. I am the father as this child. I am in control, like that. I am husband. I am in control, like that. Like that, all those designations are happening when we considering in terms of a material body. But we should understand that we are a spirit soul, part and parcel of Krishna, and servant of Krishna. So this whole section, we learned the temporariness of the material relationships we have, number one, and temporariness of the material world, temporariness of what we can achieve in the world, and is also dispelling the misunderstanding that I am this body, or misunderstanding that I am the actual doer, like that. This is what understanding we getting. Now somebody may go to question, so I don't care about the family with this understanding. What am I supposed to do? So that's the important question to address along with this understanding of this material relationships are temporary. Material relationships are temporary, that is correct. And we are not in full control, that is correct. Krishna is in full control. With this understanding, we also have the understanding that Krishna arranged these material relationships currently in this life. That means Krishna sanctioned this relationship. Krishna has given me this relationship of a wife and husband, and there is a relationship of a father and children, mother and children, like that. So, understanding that Krishna has sanctioned them, understanding myself and their part and parcel of Krishna and servants of Krishna, we support each other to grow in that eternal relationship with Krishna while taking care of whatever material needs are there currently to support the growth in that eternal relationship. So when we see everything in connection with that eternal relationship with Krishna, everything, then we see taking care of children's food is a service to Krishna. Taking care of children's clothes is a service to Krishna. Taking care of children's emotional needs is a service to Krishna. Like that we see. And that way, we're seeing them as spirit soul, number one, and we are serving them as a spirit soul, but while taking care of the bodily and needs of the mind also. And at the same time, we're not attached to them, thinking that they are mine, I produce them, like that. So the idea is in two words, if you would summarize this, my speech master summarizes this as detached caring. That means we care to our dependents, we show affection and love to our dependents and in our relationships, while still understanding the eternal nature of all of us. And that brings the detachment portion of that temporariness, brings it. This temporariness, what we heard, brings the detachment portion. The caring element is brought in with the understanding that Krishna has given me this service currently, so I need to do it best. With that understanding, caring portion will come. But this section is focusing on detachment portion. So that is about this section. Let us go through a few more verses that is describing just the storyline primarily. So far, Chitraketu heard from Angir Muni and Narada Muni. So he did not recognize them as described. He was in so much grief that he did not recognize them. So he's saying, wow, you are like avadutas. You are avadutas. Avadutas means those who are liberated people who don't take care of bother about social conventions, like that. You came like avadutas, but you are definitely greatest of great personalities. You are elevated in knowledge. In fact, mm, people, Vaishnavas, roam around like madmen or like avadutas to benefit people like me, materialists, who don't have the real knowledge, who are attached to sense gratification, just to take away our ignorance. Like that is glorifying them. He's recognizing them as Vaishnavas, first of all. And then you only roam around to benefit people like us. Like that is saying. Then he gives a whole list of people. You must be one of the great saint personalities. Like like you may be Sanat Kumara, you may be Narada, you may be Angira, you may be Parshuram, you may be Kapila, you may be Sukadeva. Like that is giving a list of names, including Narada and Angira also in the list of names. So he's saying you must be among the great and perfect persons who are roaming around to instruct knowledge for people in ignorance like me. Like that. That is the essence of this verse. Prabhupada is writing a purport that saintly persons go around to give the real knowledge, to dissipate the ignorance, to make us understand the importance of human form of life, importance of our developing relationship with Krishna in this lifetime, like that. So that is what Prabhupada is writing in the purport, that they're making our bodily conception of life like that with the spiritual knowledge. So in next section we'll hear real transcendental knowledge that Angiramuni Naramuni gives to Chitraketu. And that is the essence of this chapter also. So we'll pause here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kupasindubhyevacha cha patitana pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Thank you so much, devotees. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.